So what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another one. Today we're going to be working on the Suzuki Swift and trying to make it a little bit quieter. Getting rid of the old silencer delete straight through pipe that we made. So I'm not looking forward to this because I think it's going to be very, very rusted, especially these bolts here on that flange. But we did make it into like a two-piece exhaust axle back, just because I thought that they were going to be a problem in the first place. You know, we didn't want to sort of undo those and have to retighten them to weld a bit of pipe to it, so we made it as a sleeve and it worked perfectly fine. We didn't have to touch those bolts, but we've got new bolts and a new gasket to go in between them. Fingers crossed it's the right gasket and we'll be able to put a standard rear silencer on this thing and get rid of this big old straight pipe. So that's the plan. The gasket that they've provided, is this, it's like a crush washer. I don't think it's going to focus on it, but it's like a big crush washer. I don't think, I mean it might do, it doesn't look like it should fit. We'll see what happens. Oh, bits of rust everywhere. Safety first. So I'm going to try this. Don't know if it's going to work, but the metals that rusted, I think this might just do it. Might be enough. If not, mini hacksaw. If not, angle grinder. We'll work up to it. Whoa! Whoa! That was under quite a bit of tension, but it certainly came off. Oh, that's funny. And this is the section of metal that was working around. You see that? Wow, that was super cool. So this here, now it's focused, is the section of metal that I was working around. This is actually part of this backing plate on the exhaust. You can see that there, so that's part of that. And as this got thin enough, it just popped off with the pressure that's still being applied by this bolt. So this is the next bolt to work around. I don't think it'll fire off quite as spectacularly as that one. But yeah, this has worked rather well. Whoa! Acting quite spectacularly, is this exhaust system. Oh god, mental. Well, there is a little crush washer on this. It's been well pressed in. I'll try and knock these in now. There's these studs. So this is the sort of sticking point at the moment. I need to try and get those two bolts out of there. And this isn't fixed in any way, and it's sort of bending on the flexi further down the car. But yeah, I need to try and figure that out, so I'll come back to you once I have figured that out.
2,000 years later.
So a little bit of an update. Now, as you can see, I've ground off these bolts perfectly flat. They still won't move, so I can't get them out. But I did get the ring off and the gasket, or the gasket sealant, or whatever the hell it was, around the B pipe, or the centre pipe on the exhaust. And this is what it looked like. So it does use the sort of crushed sort of gasket, the sort of crushed down O-ring as a gasket, which is good. I will be using some exhaust gasket sealer as well, but the next sort of step, I think, is to drill these out now. Drill holes in the exact locations that these are, and hopefully that'll continue to then loosen them off. I can't really get behind them. I'm not dropping this pipe. I refuse to drop this pipe because I'll have the same problem further down the pipe with the bolts seizing, being rusted out so bad that they just become one piece of metal. But yeah, that's the plan. I've ground these off perfectly flat now basically, and they are just bonded there. They are one. They're definitely fused together. So yeah, so that's an update. I managed to get this little gasket O-ringy thing out by using these picks. Very, very useful little tools. So yeah, I managed to get the pick behind that and then scrape out the sort of remaining gasket sealer or the sort of exhaust paste that was in there as well. Next step, drill these out.
Eventually.
Right, fast forward 1 hour and this is where we are. What an absolute nightmare. So you can see I've drilled the holes, the top one became a little bit elongated, but it doesn't matter, it's not like it's creating a gas seal or anything like that on the bolt hole itself, it's just to create clamping force. And there's definitely enough metal, and the metal's definitely thick enough for it to not cause an issue. The amount of metal filings on the floor gives you an idea of just how much drilling it took. Absolute nightmare. But it's time to put the gasket in place. A little bit of exhaust paste and bolt this chuffing thing up. And I will also try and get the exhaust hangers on. I think these exhaust hangers, looking at them, they aren't perished, they aren't like dry rotted or anything like that. I'm going to do myself a favour, I think, and reuse these. They all look fine to me. Yeah, I'm going to reuse those. So finally got it drilled out. I feel like I'm going crazy. Anyway, yeah, next bit. So finally, it's time for the first start, and the reason being is that the nuts and bolts that came with the kit, here's one of the nuts here, you can see there, just on the edges of the nut. I was trying to get a spanner on it, that side's one of the best sides to give an example, but I was trying to get a spanner on it, couldn't, it was just rounding off the nut. The nut itself had its thread stripped and it was just a nightmare. So I gave it a break, asked my dad to bring some decent tensile strength nuts and bolts round, and then bolted it up. So now we're ready for the first start. Perfect. Don't mind the rattling, that's a heat shield somewhere around the catalytic converter, which needs welding back up. But yeah, quite pleased with that. Nice and quiet. Give it a little rev. Nice. Oh, and one way to check if your exhaust's sealed nice and tight is to do a quick pressure test. As you can tell, it's nice and sealed. There's no leaks anywhere because it's building up pressure in the exhaust.